My name is Max Patton. I am a graduating senior in college, and I've just done my finals on this MacBook Pro 14-inch, which is one of the hot new tech items of 2021. I'm making this video to kind of explain what this laptop is for students, whether it's worth it for them, or whether they should consider other options. And the TLDR, TLDW, whatever, is honestly that the MacBook Air with the M1 processor that came out last year is a ridiculously good computer. It's actually the laptop I was using before this particular 14-inch. And for reference, mine cost, with the student discount, around $1,500. I had a MacBook Air M1 with 16 gigabytes of memory and a 1 terabyte SSD. And I have a very similar configuration with the MacBook Pro. I have the $2,500, slightly cheaper with education discount, MacBook Pro 14 with a 1 terabyte SSD and 16 gigabytes of memory. So I'll just get some things right off the bat. If you are an engineering student working in CAD, you might need Windows, you might need more memory, your decision is made for you. Maybe you know you already need a Windows computer, or if you need more than 16 gigabytes of memory, you need to get this MacBook Pro if you want Mac OS, and you need to stomach the cost of that. Apple's memory upgrades are pretty expensive, so that's your decision there. That said, if you can live with 16 gigabytes, I think the choice gets pretty interesting because the MacBook Air is so good with the M1, and the battery life in particular is so phenomenal that the advantages of this MacBook Pro for most students, I believe, don't present themselves very well because you have to consider the MacBook Air and this lovely MacBook Pro share the same keyboard and the same trackpad. So I'm not saying that this nice MacBook Pro is a disappointment or I regret buying it. I don't, because I like the fact that the screen in particular on this model is very nice. It's super bright, and if I'm, in the future I work with video, maybe one of my jobs will have me work with HDR content. I can do that on the screen built into the laptop because it gets ridiculously bright. It has that great contrast. It's, using all the fancy new Apple technologies. Also, not gonna lie, if you just wanna flex a little bit, this is the new design language for Apple laptops, and this is what you get. This is pretty sweet. You're not getting that with the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air with the M1, while it's not a bad looking laptop, is very much so kind of the classic Apple design language from the last few years. This has the new bigger Apple logo. It's got the cool engraved MacBook Pro text over here, kind of like, styled for the Supreme generation. And I think it's kind of cool, honestly, but that's not a functional benefit. Functionally, yes, the processor is faster, but you will only notice that when you are actually leveraging all those cores, of course, because what this is an M1 with more cores. It's more M1. The M1, the processor in the MacBook Air, is already by itself so good. And frankly, like I said, the MacBook Air gets better battery life. And while it doesn't have an SD card slot or the HDMI, which is kind of cool, it has 2 Thunderbolts as well. And it's pretty useful, honestly. I got by with that laptop for a year just fine, plugging it into an external monitor when I needed more screen space. And that's something to consider here. 14 inches, it's not a big difference. It's not much more than the MacBook Air. And if you're getting the 16-inch, which is a great laptop, then I think you know what you want. The 14-inch is kind of the nicer version of the MacBook Air with a little bit more screen space, but I don't think that should be, aside from the fact that it's HDR capable, your buying decision. Your buying decision should be, this is a nicer, more expensive laptop that is more capable, can be configured with more memory, can be suited to those pro workflows, has Apple's new design language. This all sounds very nice. You might think, why would anyone buy the MacBook Air? Well, remember the price I said at the beginning? The MacBook Air starts also at around $900 with education discounts, even cheaper sometimes with the current discounts and sales, whereas this MacBook Pro, which is a hot new ticket item just released, is never on sale so far and starts at $2,000. And frankly, with the starting $2,000 configuration, I would urge most people to stay away because I just think if you're getting 500 gigabytes of storage on a laptop that's expensive, you're not spending your money correctly. I just think the MacBook Air at that point is a better value. So this is not a video ragging on the MacBook Pro 14 or 16. They're obviously fantastic laptops. Many reviews have confirmed that. They have slightly better webcams. They have great speakers. They have all of these very nice qualities. But the MacBook Air M1 is just so spectacularly good, so fantastic that most students who are writing papers, who are even doing, work in CAD, work in Photoshop, work in Xcode, work in just with Python, whatever they're doing for school or for their personal life, as a student, you can probably realistically get by on that MacBook Air, and it's going to be a much more svelte, portable package than even this kind of chonkalicious MacBook Pro 14. So that's something to consider. And Windows laptops, I know I'm a Mac fanboy, but I'll just say this right now, I don't think are competitive for students, because at the value proposition of, let's say, $1,000 price range plus, the Macs, the notebooks are so fantastic. These processors are so efficient, the battery life is so good. You really should not be considering Windows laptops unless you just absolutely need Windows. Maybe you're a gamer, maybe you need those RTX, ray tracing graphics cores for the kinds of work you do with 3D, I don't know. But if you're not one of those special use cases, Mac should be on your list, specifically the M1 MacBook Air. And if you fall into one of those, categories where you like the niceness or you have the money, like I mentioned, for the advantages of this, new MacBook Pro, that's something to consider. It's a great laptop, I've enjoyed it, but I'm making this video as kind of a PSA to say, don't necessarily get bought into the hype, feeling like you need to get the new MacBook Pro because it's nice and it's the new standard. The MacBook Air with M1 is plenty future-proof as it is from 2020. I think it's gonna be a great laptop for years, and if you can find that on sale or on discount, save yourself the money and enjoy. Have a happy new year. Thanks.